Welcome to Getting Started with Oil Painting. The supplies you'll need are, of course, oil paints. You'll need an odorless solvent. You'll need a container for your solvent. Glass or metal can work great for that. You'll also need paint brushes just for oil paints. And then you'll need a palette of some sort for mixing your oil paints, canvas paper or another surface to paint on. And then you'll want some paintbrush cleaner for the end when you're cleaning up. I'm going to be using blue, red, yellow, black, white, and burnt sienna for my colors today. And it's optional to tape your edges with masking tape, but I definitely like to because I like my edges to be nice and clean when I'm done with my painting. I'm starting with a little burnt sienna, and I'm going to add some of my solvent to create a wash. With just a little bit of paint and some solvent, I'm thinning down the paint consistency. And this is applying a wash which sets a ground or tone for my paper, so I'm not painting on pure white. So you can really do this with any color you want. I'm choosing to just keep it neutral today, so I went with my burnt sienna. Grabbing a little paper towel here and just spreading it around. You could also use a rag or cloth to do this too. And then I am going to be sketching out a pear today with just a little round paintbrush just in my burnt sienna color right on top of that wash. And I don't need to be too detailed in my sketch. Basically what I'm going for here is just a loose outline, maybe some of the more defining lines and edges that will just sort of help me when I start to block in my color. You could do a full underpainting here, but I'm not going to today. And then I'm laying out my colors, my primaries, red, yellow, blue, and then white and black, so I can create tints and shades of my colors. I am starting by mixing some color, and you can see here I started with a brush, but now I'm using a palette knife. I do like palette knives for mixing just because the bristles do hold a lot of extra paint and you end up sometimes wasting some, but either can work. And so I'm just mixing some different yellows up, some lights and darks, so I can start to block in this pear here. And I'm just sort of hopping around and looking at areas of the pear where it could be a little bit darker, could be a little bit lighter. So focusing on my shadows and sort of treating them as shapes, and then painting them in with just a round paintbrush here. I'm just using rounds and flats for today, again keeping it super simple, and just blocking in and going sort of back and forth, hopping around between these lights and darks. So really, in addition to having dark shadowed areas, light highlight areas, I also look for at least a mid-tone and an in-between color as well. you can certainly start with painting your background, but I just chose to paint my subject first. And now I'm blocking in my background with some of these sort of light blues, and I'm just slightly altering the value just to differentiate the different walls. So I've got those kind of two back walls and then the ground. And then I will to work towards adding some cast shadow and bringing out some of that background detail. The last thing I do is add in smaller details. So really I try to work with my bigger paint brushes and then go towards the smaller brushes. Not that you can't hop around, you certainly can, but here I'm just sort of putting in some little finishing touches, some details on the leaves, and just kind of wrapping this up. And then I will go ahead and take my tape off and reveal those edges. And of course, this is just a super little simple painting, but I think it's really good to start simple, especially when you're trying out a new medium. So there you have it, a little pear in oil paint.